Hey, John and Nicole, it's so nice to have you guys on the show today. How are you doing? I'm doing just fine, and thank you so very much for being here. Just like I mentioned earlier, I truly appreciate it, and it means a whole lot. And you see, John and Nicole, you say, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say to you guys, thank you so very much for investing in yourselves. You see, the both of you are on this platform right now, the amazing and beautiful couples. You're on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, John and Nicole, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. Oh, what a beautiful experience that day. It was such a great moment for me. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you, John and Nicole, you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing couple that you are, the amazing human beings that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request from me to be on the show. And just before I sent you the request, I said to myself, you see, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things that these amazing couples are doing. You see, I was attracted to your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, your views, and it's amazing. And thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. So thank you. Awesome. Yeah. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have the both of you on the show today for two reasons. All right. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, John and Nicole, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. And not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, John and Nicole, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge, in darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing couples on the show, John and Nicole, is for the sake of the listeners. You see, John and Nicole, we live in an age where knowledge is us. It's everywhere. We've got so many informations out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Let's just start with John, then after John, Nicole, talk to us about your personal or professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how the both of you got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, John and Nicole, over to you. Stage is yours.
Yeah. I'm John Sonmez. Was a software developer for 15 years, actually very analytical minded, but I really started reading a lot of books, and it kind of changed my viewpoint on a lot of things. I learned a lot about personal development and developing myself, and kind of made that a focus of my life. And so now I actually teach men personal development skills, how to succeed in relationships and dating, and how to get their mindset right. Very much based in Stoic philosophy, and I found Nicole, my wonderful wife, and together now we do the Better Than Perfect podcast, where we teach couples how to build strong relationships through a concept that we call the modern traditional relationship.
Yeah. And
That's
I'm Nicole.
amazing. Let's have it, Nicole.
Okay. I'm Nicole Sonmez. And I did many things before I met John, but now I stay at home and take care of our daughter, my stepdaughter, and help with the podcast, obviously. But it's funny because, like John mentioned, he does personal development for men. And when we met, I was doing a dating podcast. It was very small, but it was based on my dating experience. And John was also giving like dating advice as part of his like mindset and personal development for men. So that's actually something we connected on very early on. And then when we got together officially and got married, we were like, we should really do something with this. We're both trying to help people have better relationships or navigate dating and all of the things, when it comes to dealing with your partner. So that's how we got here.
Amazing. And that's a beautiful journey, coming together to build something like this is really inspiring. And what you just shared now is a great proof that two folks can come together and build something that would help people. Some due to some experiences and some failures in relationships and marriages and all, they don't believe it's possible. Getting to listen to you guys now, that's very inspiring. So John mentioned something about modern traditional relationship. Right now, I'm curious. Can you talk to us about that? What is that?
So so modern traditional relationship is essentially a traditional relationship where you have a man and a woman, where there's a masculine and a feminine, right? In the sense that traditional gender roles, you could say, where the guy protects and provides, makes the money, the woman is the nurturer, takes care of the house and the children, but in a modern sense of it, right? And so the distinction that we make is that the modern view of this is that I think in the past, right, you could think maybe in the 1950s or somewhere in that era, that kind of relationship existed, a traditional relationship, but it wasn't completely voluntary, meaning that a lot of women didn't have a choice. They didn't have really ability to make their own money or to be really successful in business. So they had to find the guy, and they had to depend on him, and they had to sort of do these roles, not because they wanted to, not because that it made the most sense to do it, but because it was sort of what you had to do, right? And so that's where we kind of get these bad stereotypes of the macho man and the woman cooking and cleaning and being subservient to a man. What our modern spin on this is that the modern, there's nothing wrong with the traditional roles in a relationship, but they shouldn't be out of necessity, out of this is how, like, it has to be this way. It should be that a woman respects a man enough that she trusts him to lead the relationship, to be a leader, to be a man that she will put her life and her trust in to lead and guide her, and that a man loves a woman, that he shows her this love, the sacrificial love, not because that's what he's supposed to do, but because he genuinely believes that's the right thing to do. There's not a compulsion to these things. So when we talk about modern traditional relationship, it's keeping the good idea of the traditional relationship of these roles that a man provides in a relationship, that a woman provides in a relationship, but adding on top of this idea that in a modern sense, it's not necessary. A woman can work, she can be the CEO of a company, a man can, he doesn't have to provide. He can say, oh, you pay your bill, I'll pay my bill. But as a man, I choose to do this, and as a woman, Nicole chooses to participate in this because the two are greater than the one. The sum of the two, 1+1 = 4. It's a synergistic relationship where we realize that that's how you thrive. That's how you actually create a stronger relationship. Just like the polarity of a North Pole magnet attracting a South Pole magnet, this extreme polarity that we have between the masculine and the feminine, that creates a stronger connection, a stronger relationship, and builds a better environment for a family.
That's profound. You see, you explained it in such a way that even a toddler would understand. And I got that. Would you like to add to that, Nicole?
Yeah, I do want to add just a little thing. John brought it up, and I wanted to add that we're trying to help people find the beauty in true masculinity and true femininity, because as a woman, I know a lot of times, since women are going out now and working and providing for themselves, that even women sometimes kind of shame women who are in their feminine, and even men will be like, that's weak, or you need to toughen up to women. And so it is genuinely confusing to be a woman sometimes. So we kind of highlight the beauty of being feminine and how it's not weak. And as far as like the masculine, how to do it the right way, like John said, not the like aggressive or, bullying, like, sort of way it's portrayed in a lot of media or just in general from people that you see online, and how it's more coming from a loving place, a strong loving place, rather than this like aggressive place. So it's kind of really tied into all of that. Like John said, the polarity, the masculine and the feminine, and it's, allowing us to embrace those things inside of ourselves rather than feel like we have to either like suppress them and be one way or another, and try to help people like honor those things about themselves and not be ashamed about them.
That's right. I got that. And you see, how do I put it? Your philosophies, the both of you, your insight, it is really amazing. And now I see why you are such a great match and why you're doing what you're doing. Because you're thinking in a very, very polite way, and it is definitely contributing to the impact you're doing in the world. So let us talk about 50-50 relationship. What is wrong with that? Can you talk to us about that? You get it?
I'll start then. Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing with a 50-50 relationship is, I think the best way to describe it is that it's almost like, you know, I can have my own rocket ship and she can have her own rocket ship, and we can both, we could both go as high as we can in our rocket ship, right? I make my money, I've got my job, she's got her money, she makes her job, she pays for her stuff, I pay for my stuff. We join forces together. But when we do that as a 50-50 relationship, what do we get? Well, we get two rockets. Okay. And those rockets, maybe my rocket goes higher, her rocket goes higher, but we're combining them together, so we get the equivalent of adding them up, right? Whereas what we're suggesting, which I think works a lot better, is that instead we just have one rocket. And I'm the rocket, and she's the rocket fuel for me, right? So in this relationship, I'm going out there and facing the world and going to make the money, but she's providing all of this fuel to make my rocket go way further. And so in this case, it's not just this half plus this half equals one whole. We're getting more than just a combination of our two rockets, because just like any real good business functions by having a synergistic relationship between the partners in the business, or the employees in the business. Not if everyone's doing the same role, you only get an additive value of adding up the value of each one of those roles. But when you're doing complementary roles, where one role supplements the other role and makes it better, then you get a synergistic effect, where you get an effect that is greater than the sum of the parts, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so the big problem with the 50-50 relationship is that you're not creating an interdependency. You're making it so each person is independent, and they're showing up in the relationship, which might seem like a good thing, But by doing that, you don't really have that strong of a bond. I don't need you. You don't need me. We choose to be together. It sounds good in theory, but in reality, in practice, uh, I have to cover all of the things in my life, and you still have to cover all the things in your life. And so there's no real benefit. But by opening myself and saying, okay, there's parts of my life that I'm not going to worry about. And I'm going to take care of these. I'm going to focus on these efforts. I'm going to focus on making money, in showing up as the man, in protection, in providing the resources. And she's going to focus on nurturing the family, providing the love, the environment, that emotional energy, right? That then we've got both of those things covered, and we both don't have to focus on each one of those things. So I can be more in my masculine as a man, and she can be more in her feminine, and that creates that stronger attraction, because you have a much stronger attraction when you need each other. When you create that kind of relationship, than one where I don't need you and you don't need me. We're just choosing to be together. So that's really, I think, the key reason why 50-50 relationships don't really work, because there's no necessity there. It's only if it's convenient for me, then we're together. But if it's not convenient for me, then we're not together, because I don't need you. And so because of that, you don't have a very serious degree of commitment, and I can't depend on my partner, because I don't know if they're going to be there. They're only there at their convenience, and I'm only there at my convenience.
Amazing. You see, we are getting invaluable information for free. Folks who pay to learn these things now. So, Nicole, I was about to ask, how is the relationship? John mentioned, he said he's the rocket and you are the rocket fuel. So, how is it being the rocket fuel? Can you talk to us more about
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because it is different than any relationship I've ever been in. John, has been the first person to provide in a relationship 100%, and I have done 50-50 relationships in the past. And it's not like there was anything inherently wrong, like John said, but you do feel that separation, even if it's not intentional, because you're both not, like John said, providing something that somebody needs. And people might hear that and be like, that sounds weird, but that's also ties into the masculine and feminine that I talked about earlier. Is that when I can relinquish my masculine energy to John and know that he's going to handle it, it allows me to show up in a feminine way and like doubles the power of that, if that makes sense. And since my inner nature is more feminine, it kind of takes that stress off. So it provides not only a loving experience inside of myself, like a more free, loving experience, but outwardly as well. And same with John. People listening might be like, well, why don't you want to be your own rocket ship, Nicole? And the thing is, I have been my own rocket ship, and I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. But when you are in a relationship and you are in 100%, it is a totally different experience. It is a more peaceful experience where he can also give me more of the feminine roles. Like I said, we have a daughter, and so he can kind of have me handle those sort of things. And he doesn't have to be, in this feminine, softer area. He can focus on what he needs to focus on. That's not to say that he's not an awesome dad. He's the most amazing dad ever. But it instead creates a reliability on each other that people might be afraid of, but is necessary. If you are getting married, you are becoming one. And we're not even like super religious people, but we believe that to be true. And if I'm being honest, if more people believed that, then there would probably be less divorce or separation and things like that people are afraid of. They're afraid to go all in 100% with somebody, so they do 50-50. But the more 100% you are in, the less likely you are to not stick around and work things out. Like if you're 100% invested, you are going to make things work.
That's so true. You guys just keep giving me a lot of proofs, you see. Now I see why you're so good at what you do. Okay, so to bring this to an end, I would love to hear your perspective on this. I would love to hear from John and from Nicole. So, from John's perspective, how can one protect one's family or relation?
Mm. Yeah. So the way I look at it as a man, my responsibility is to interface with the outside world, right? So I view it as sort of the captain of the ship, right? I'm the captain of the ship, right? I have the authority as the captain of the ship, but I have the full responsibility for the entire crew on the ship. So if something goes wrong on the ship, it's not someone on the ship's fault; it's my fault. I have the so that's how I protect, because it's not just protecting from physical harm, right? I mean, obviously that's part of it, but in the society that we live in today, at least in most places, most people aren't really in fear of their life all the time. So being a man and saying, "Oh, I just protect from physical harm," that's not necessarily as valuable as it once was. Where I protect as a man is from the stress, the emotional harm, the environment, the things that are on the outside that want to infiltrate and cause damage to our relationship or our family. So I'm the one who's dealing with all of those things, who's going out there and facing the world so that I can create a peaceful, a safe border. Just like if I was trying to protect a village, I would put up a wall around that village and create a separation so that the village, the people in the village wouldn't have to always be on the alert. Are they going to be attacked? Is there a wild animal going to come through? It's the same thing in the relationship, in my family. I'm creating that wall so that if someone wants to harm someone in my family, and I'm not saying just physically, but they have to go through me. They have to go through this wall. I'm acting as that wall. I'm insulating so that, again, so that Nicole can be in her feminine, because she doesn't have to be on guard, right? As a man, I'm on guard. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to attack. I'm ready to defend whatever needs to be done. So I have to stay in that masculine, ready to defend if necessary. But she can relax and be in her feminine because she knows I'm standing guard. I'm there, right? From whatever things would try to harm our relationship, right? And so in a lot of ways, as a man, what does that look like? It looks like, in a more pragmatic or practical sense, it looks like setting some boundaries in a relationship. We have sort of these guidelines that we always give people that say, okay, well, the man should be setting the guidelines. How do we protect this relationship? So as a man, I think it's important that we both have our locations on our phone, so we know each other is at. We don't do girls' night out and guys' night out, going to bars or nightclubs and stuff, because it's not appropriate for the relationship. I'm protecting the relationship. I'm protecting those things that are valuable to us, the value systems that we hold, right? I'm helping to create those things and to say, okay, this is what we do. This is how we operate, which all protects what we have. And so a lot of the way that a man can do that is by guiding, by leading, by setting boundaries, by creating a separation from the way other people do things, or the outside world, and this relationship.
By guiding, by leading, and by setting boundaries. I got. So Nicole, you like to add?
John touched on it just a little bit, but I think as, a woman in the traditional relationship, like we talked about, in order to be feminine and truly live in that sort of space, you do have to have something protecting that, like John said. And it's all of the things that he had mentioned that he's protecting me from, because the reason a lot of women aren't as in their feminine as maybe they would like to be is because they don't have that protection. They're either single or they're in a relationship where they're still really in their masculine, and you cannot simultaneously be super in your masculine and super in your feminine. I know women are trying, and I'm not saying you can't have any sort of like femininity when you have both going on, but a lot of women that I know that have a similar dynamic to what we have, they have experienced their femininity in such a more profound way when they are with a man that protects them in the way that John is talking about. Because even if it is a more vulnerable thing to be in your feminine, that doesn't make it, like I mentioned, weak or anything like that. It just makes it a little bit more of something that needs a border around it. And when we don't have a man to do that, we will do it ourselves as women. But like I said, we can't get to our full potential because we're doing both roles, which kind of ties back into needing each other. Because I could be more in my masculine to protect my feminine side, but that's not going to really give myself or the world or John or our family the femininity level that I know I'm capable of. But when I can give that to him, then I don't have to stress about protecting that. Did we lose you?
Awesome. Beautiful. You see, this is a very important one. Okay, can you hear me? I think my
Yeah.
network went. Okay, okay. I said this is a very important one, and it's very invaluable to the point where I would have to listen to our conversation over and over again. I want to process it all, every statement from John up to Nicole. I want to break it down and understand it fully so I can apply some very important steps here. So to bring this to an end, John and Nicole, for folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed so far, or even ask questions, how can that be possible?
Yeah, the best place to find us is Better Than Perfect Podcast. If you search for that on Google, you can find us on YouTube. We do video podcasts every single week on all of these topics, and we go into depth into, I think we have 70 something episodes now of the podcast. Or you can go search on Spotify. We have an audio version, or on Apple Podcasts as well.
Awesome. Beautiful. What's the name of your podcast?
It's Better Than Perfect Podcast.
Better than perfect. I love that. That's a great one. So that's going to be the end of the show. John and Nicole, thank you so very much for coming. And thank you for explaining these beautiful stuffs, sharing this incredible information with us. It means a whole lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We really appreciate it.
That was a beautiful one.
Thank